What's up, LinkedIn community? This is Adam Conrad, founder and CXO of Great Recruiters. I am fired up today. I'm joined by our guest today, Marissa Morgan of Travel Nurses Incorporated. And Marissa was one of our top-rated recruiters of Q3. So congratulations and welcome to GR Live, Marissa. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing great. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And congratulations. I mean, less than 1%, I think, this past quarter of recruiters on the platform, thousands of recruiters got the top rated. So kudos to you. You don't earn that if you're not always asking, and you don't earn that unless you're driving a great experience. So that's an awesome accomplishment. Congrats.
Thank you so much. That's what I told my team. They were like, how'd you do it? I'm like, you can't be afraid to ask. Keep asking.
That is true, and you can. And I want to talk a little bit more about that. But first, I want to get to know a little bit more about your background. I know you started in recruitment in 2020, right? And so nobody's growing up thinking, I'm going to be a recruiter, right? We all into it. We all have our own little story. So share with us, how did you fall into recruiting?
Well, I was actually teaching during 2020, and I had worked at Travel Nurses Inc. previously when I was in college through a connection that I had. And our current Chief Revenue Officer, Lori, actually was directly over me back when I worked here in college. And so I was familiar with the industry, but of course didn't stick around because I'm like, well, I need to pursue what my degree is, which was Spanish, foreign languages. And anyway, she gave me a call and said, hey, we need a recruiter. I think you'd be great at it. Do you want to come back? And I was like, I absolutely do. So it was more of a, let me see how I can not be teaching in the middle of this pandemic.
Right.
It just happened to me. But I came back, it was December of 2020, so the end of the year.
Right. Well, welcome back to the industry. And I have to ask, right? Most people in the recruitment industry have very different degrees. So you're in the language. Do you get to use that experience on a daily basis in your role?
Not right now. I have used it in this role, but not on a daily basis.
No, okay. All right. Well, good.
At one point, I had a bilingual traveler on assignment with me, and we spoke Spanish when she would call me, but
no, that's awesome.
Every day.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Well, hey, so one of the things, congrats, you started in the height of the pandemic. It's over, and you're still here, and I don't think that's a story for a lot of recruiters who started, because I think what was needed then is not what is needed now from a recruiter. Can you just talk about a little bit what that transition was like, how it was when you first started compared to how things are today?
Absolutely. It has been quite a roller coaster. So I started, like I said, December 2020. So really all of 2021 was height of COVID year. And then it started to come down in, I would say, January of last year is when we really started to see the decline.
Yeah.
The first thing I would say is just speaking to how incredible Travel Nurses Inc. is, the company that I work for. We have incredible leadership and support staff for recruiters. So that has been a big help in being able to stick around, seeing the way that they've shifted. And people, higher than me have made decisions that have kept me here. So I'm grateful for that. And then as far as recruiting goes, I would say that when I started, it was mostly the skill that I have of multitasking was being used all the time. I mean, we were signing 9-10 contracts a day. I mean, it was insane. And now that's not, the volume has gone down. So it transitions into using the skill set of really selling and, putting yourself out there, making those cold calls and connections with people, which, to bring it full circle, Great Recruiters helps with a ton to truly connect with the nurses and the healthcare professionals that we work with. But I just think different skill sets are needed, and being able to see a bigger picture in the middle of it, because there were some hard days in the past year.
I can imagine. Yeah, I can imagine.
It's totally different than when I started, but being versatile and able to, just pivot and to know that it's going to pick back up because it always does. So that's kind of where I land on that. It has been hard, and I don't, deny that, but I'm grateful for where I'm at now too. So
yeah, I don't think anybody can deny that it's been hard when it was, because it changed so quickly, both as the pandemic hit and then as it dropped off. The change has kind of been abrupt, and we've seen it across this year. But I think you said something like, you can tell when you talk about Travel Nurses Inc., there's a company that cares about you, right? That means a lot. They value, they're supporting you, and I think that is a huge piece to help through those crazy times, as well as the times when things get a little bit tougher. So kudos to them for creating that environment for you to thrive.
They also took care of our healthcare professionals to a degree that no other company did, in my opinion. And a lot of the professionals I work with have just thanked us extensively for the way we were able to care for them during that time. So
here's what I love. So I don't, a lot of times, I was a recruiter. I grew up as a recruiter. Started Great Recruiters because I really didn't appreciate the perception the industry had of recruiters, even when I was doing a good job, right? You kind of got that negative rap. But this is I'm gonna read a recent review that you had, because this just makes me smile. It says, Marissa is the most professional, friendliest, and helpful recruiter there is. You can be sure she'll not only care about your success in your career, will also deeply care about your health and well-being in life. I've called her multiple times just to vent, and I would consider her a very good friend at this point. She's wonderful. You won't regret choosing this gem to help guide you.
Thanks, you know exactly who that is.
But that's somebody that took the time to write a mouthful raving about you. Yeah. And you don't get that by not being awesome. So what is it like when you're approaching this? Because this isn't, you've got the transactional set, and it's obvious you are not a transactional recruiter. You are, like, when somebody says they deeply care, somebody feels you deeply care about their well-being, like that's where the connection's made. So in your words, what do you, if you're talking to recruiters out there that might not have had the same upbringing as you as a recruiter, what advice would you give them so they're creating this amazing wow experience? Because right there, you've got a traveler for life.
Yeah. Well, thank you for saying that. And I don't take any of those reviews lightly. I take them all to heart, and it means a lot. I would say one of the biggest things is getting on the phone with people. And, our company was founded and is run by nurses. And so, we were, as recruiters, trained by nurses who gave us a lot of intel. So I'm not a recruiter who doesn't know, where things are in the hospital or anything like that. And so that is a big plus for where I work, of being able to connect with people in that way. They're not just calling me about my paycheck is wrong, or, my schedule's wrong, or anything like that. They can call and vent, like you said, or like she said, and really speak to me about what their experience was, when they got off work in the morning. So they'll call me when they're driving home, and I will answer the phone. And so that's one of the biggest things I would say in making those connections, is getting on the phone with people and just chatting with them about their life, and not being afraid if someone is a little bit quieter or doesn't seem as open to talking, to still ask them questions, still call them and check in. We don't get people on assignment and then say, okay, bye, talk to you in 13 weeks. I'm calling them every week, checking in with them, texting them. And I'm not going to lie, I can't remember everything. So I'll set a calendar reminder. It's so-and-so son's birthday.
Who can remember everything that we have going on? Admit you set a reminder. We used to do Fanatical Fridays, where we called everybody that was in a submission or that was placed, and it became kind of a funny thing, like, oh, it's noon on Friday, it's Adam.
Yeah, exactly. They come to expect it, but people appreciate that,
Well, and it's knowing that you're always there. You're always there. We don't have to talk all the time, but I'm here, and I'm going to check in and do that. So help me understand, as somebody that was newer to the industry, coming in, from a review standpoint, I won't even talk about just the feedback perspective. A lot of people are a little afraid of getting feedback, right, from the people they're working with. And you know, it seemed like when we were talking earlier, you embraced that. Like, why?
Well, you can't grow if people don't tell you, you know, where you can grow. And we need people in our life to point out our blind spots. And even in my personal life, I have friendships with people, and I say all the time to them, well, agree to disagree. I mean, we'll talk about things, and I don't like to just be around people who agree with me on everything. And so it comes very naturally to me to ask for feedback or ask for opinions on a situation or whatever the case may be in life in general, to say, you know, am I seeing this with blinders on, or am I seeing this as it truly is? And I think that when it comes to recruiting, asking for feedback, you know, you really are casting a wide net when you send this link out to people and say, review me. You never know what they're going to say. And some people will leave you 3 stars and no comments. And I'm like, well, I don't know what I did to you. And at that point, you can call them if you want and say, hey, I noticed you gave me 3 stars. Can you tell me why? Like, what can I improve on? And most of the time, people will tell you what you can do or what they weren't happy about. And, you know, we always have to have that feedback to grow. So.
And what's when you've called those candidates back? I'm just curious. Like, are they surprised to hear from you? Like, I didn't expect.
For sure, for sure.
And how does the conversation end? Do they have a better feeling of it because you did take that extra step to follow up?
There was one person at one time who said, "Oh, I was just, you know, doing it really quick. I didn't even know what I was clicking." You know, that type of thing. It's like, okay, well. Next time, pay attention, please.
Next time. Well, good thing. We're going to allow them to edit that review if they want to.
There we go.
They change their experience. We'll have that rolling for you. Talk to me about how Great Recruiters kind of has helped you gain this momentum and keep this momentum that you've had over the last few years.
Yeah. So I earlier this year started using the Great Recruiters platform to well, as you mentioned, the first thing is a lot of people who started recruiting during the pandemic are no longer recruiting. And so I've inherited some people from other recruiters. And so usually I'll send those people just a generic message at the beginning of our working relationship and say, hey, this is what other people have said about working with me. And the hopes is that they see someone who's a friend of theirs or somebody that they know, or even just the personal, you know, honest feedback from healthcare professionals that will make them trust me more. Because especially during the pandemic in the past few years, I would say people are switching recruiters like crazy and switching agencies like crazy. So to be able to send them that link and say, hey, this is what other people say about working with me. Hopefully you'll pick me. But I also have a line that I tell people, and I say, if I'm not the right fit for you, that's okay. And people like to hear that because I may not be everyone's cup of tea and they may not like my work style. They may not want a phone call every week, you know, and that's okay. There's a bunch of other recruiters out there. So just being honest up front from myself, and then sharing the honest feedback from the nurses and healthcare professionals I work with has been really useful. And the other thing I would say I do is I tell the people when I'm asking them for a review, hey, I'm going to use what you say to send to new travelers as they're deciding which company to work with and which recruiter to work with. So any feedback you can leave for a new traveler would be super helpful. And I've been getting more reviews of people saying, like, this is why I like working with her or with this company. And that is, I believe, helpful to newer travelers who don't know anyone who's traveling or don't know where to turn to for advice. So it's a very useful tool, not only for feedback, but for gaining trust and, you know, growing your headcount of people you're working with.
Yeah, and you were sharing, so you share the profile as you're reaching out to new candidates. How is that helping you?
I would say, I know I mentioned this to you as well. There's been one person who has told me, hey, I looked at your profile. I think we'd be a great fit to work together. Other than that, I don't always get a lot of feedback on it, but I think that the people who are clicking on it and looking are more likely to respond and answer when I call.
Right. So when you're sending it out, the times you do remember, you're getting a higher callback rate or connection rate, or at least something back.
Yeah, I would say so. It's hard to know for sure exactly what it is that makes people call you back if they're not telling you, but I definitely think so. And whenever you can focus on sending it out as a tool to recruit, then I do think that you get more of a response.
And what I love is somebody that was searching for a recruiter, found your profile, like, right? Just was searching, found your profile, was like, I think you're somebody I want to work with.
Yep, like she gave me a call. I was like, how did you hear about us? Well, I just saw you online. I'm like, great.
I love that. That's great. And I think that's the goal. And we know it's a consumer mindset that people have when they're looking for their job search, right? They want to be in control. They want somebody that they can trust. And so it's good to be able to have that. And I think if you Google your name, one of the first few results is your Great Recruiters review. So if somebody's looking for a travel recruiter, they're going to find you.
Yeah.
How does the overall organization leverage GR from your perspective, kind of to help the organization as a whole? Yeah,
so our organization is Great Recruiter certified because we have enough recruiters who have the certification, which is very nice. Anything we can get under our belt that shows how awesome we are is good, because we are awesome, I think.
Well, I tell you, a lot of people reading your reviews, a lot of people think you're awesome as well.
Yeah. Well, thank you. But I definitely think that we use it in that regard. And then I know you had mentioned earlier, looking at our company and, where everyone is in the lineup. We recruiters use it internally as a bit of a competition. Like, hey, let me see if I can get more reviews than you. It's motivating to see when you get positive feedback, you want more positive feedback. So we use it that way as well.
And positive feedback is a result of great experiences.
Right.
You create great experiences, you create great relationships. Talk about how you manage your relationships. So you get these great reviews. Some people you place, some people you don't. How much do you rely on that network of people that you've engaged with, had a great experience to help from a referral and a recommendation standpoint? Is that a core part of what you're doing?
Absolutely. I would say, I didn't look at the numbers on this, but probably more than half of my current placements were word of mouth referrals. And some of them actually came from Great Recruiters. When they left a review, they can leave a referral, which I love that feature. It's awesome. And I'm able to call them from there. I would say that, getting reviews and getting referrals go hand in hand. I mean, people aren't going to leave
good reviews.
Right. That's true. That's true.
Great reviews. Yes.
You got to be good at what you do to get good reviews. So, it all works together. You're not going to be successful as a recruiter if you're not connecting with people. And I think as things are becoming more automated, obviously everybody's wanting to use the next AI feature and all the automated things, and it's good. But I'm like, I'm still going to call you, and I'll tell people like, this was an automated text. This is me, like, answer the phone. And they like that because it's all about connections.
Right.
And that being said, it's about connections with their friends. If you have a good experience somewhere, you're going to want to tell your friends about it. And I rely on that very heavily. And I'm not afraid, just like I'm not afraid to ask for reviews, I'm not afraid to ask for referrals a million times. Like, hey, have you met anybody new? Here's my referral card, scan the QR code, send them my way. And funnily enough, I got somebody on a call, I believe this week. She just called me and said, hey, I just saw so-and-so posted their staffing referrals link on Facebook. And so I don't really know her, but she said to give you a call. Like, great.
That's awesome. So in reviews and referrals, staff referrals is a great partner of ours. It's like, how do you leverage positive reviews to drive referrals and all of that? It all works together. So I love that you shared that as well, because it works. And if your friend, if the traveler didn't post that and wouldn't post it unless she trusted you, I would hope, right? Unless she were trying to send, bad people your way.
Right.
But that's the trust piece. Like, that is the trust piece that has to exist. And, recruiting is a lot easier when you have a personal network of people that trust you, that you can tap into to ask for help. It just makes your job easier. Do you notice longer retention, more redeployments with those candidates who are referred to you versus those that you might find through other sources?
I would have to think about that, but I would guess the answer is yes on that. I mean, the reality is that hardly anyone, not no one, but hardly anyone is a traveler for life. And so,
Right.
it's a very seasonal time span that I'm working with people. However, I've had people who have been referred to me by word of mouth referrals who've been on contract for 2 years, and then they decide, for whatever reason, it's time for them to get a staff position. And I'm like, okay, great, at your new staff job, hand out my name. And they do. And I'm still getting referrals from some of those people. So it's one of those things where you have to be thinking about it as a seasonal thing for these people that you're working with. And I don't solely rely on them to provide me with referrals because, there's a limit to the people that they know, but the more people you're connecting with that they're connecting with, you just have a wider base of people reaching out to you. And I would say pretty often I'm getting word of mouth referrals at least once a week, if not a handful of people a week.
Yeah. And you're doing the number one reason people don't get referrals or recruiters is they just don't ask. And some of them don't ask because I don't know if they're confident in what they actually can provide from a value standpoint.
Yeah.
It's obviously that anyone that's engaging with you is going to have a great experience, and that you make a referable reputation, and you have to have one. When you have that, you have the confidence. Like, I love it. I'm not everybody's cup of tea, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. It's totally fine. And maybe I can refer you to somebody that might be a better fit for you from a recruiter standpoint if you don't want to get called every single day.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, I think that self-awareness is really important, and the confidence to say, like, you're helping make their lives easier by treating them the way that you treat them, right? You're taking that burden off of that. Are they wondering, am I working with somebody I can trust? I mean, so if you're providing a valuable service, even if you can't get them placed that moment. And like you said, you have people that, are still referring folks to you, and they're not even on assignment anymore. So that's a true testament. It makes all the sense in the world why you were listed as top rated 3. There's no doubt.
Well, thank you.
What advice would you give recruiters entering into the healthcare recruitment, or those that are still maybe a little afraid to get the feedback or to leverage that? What advice would you give them? What have you figured out that you might be able to share a little secret sauce?
I have told some of the recruiters that I currently work with, just you can't be afraid to ask, and there is a degree in which I say you can't take things personally if it goes negative, but part of that is, where can you grow in this? Like, some things, if I make a mistake, I have to be willing to say, okay, I made this mistake, I'm sorry, and be honest about it. I think that honesty and transparency is the number one thing that we need as recruiters to have a fruitful experience at our jobs. And that's what people want. Everybody wants to be working with someone who's honest and that feels like they're not hiding information from them or they can't be reached. And so I do tell people, you can't be afraid to ask. And then you also have to be honest and own up if you do make a mistake or you get something wrong, because it's going to happen. It's happened to me plenty of times. And I think that my background as I was a Spanish teacher, I think that helped in this regard too, because I'm very used to telling people about, you can't be afraid to try to speak the language that you're learning, or else you're never going to grow. Like, you have to be willing to make mistakes. And so I think that in asking for reviews, it's the same concept of we can't be afraid to ask, because for every maybe not so excellent review that you may get, you're going to get 5 or 6 5-star reviews because you're doing a great job. And if you don't feel like you're doing a great job, go to your manager, go to your director and ask for help, because as much as recruiting is an individual game, so to speak, it's also a team sport. I mean, we're on a team, we're with the company, and when one of us is successful, we're all successful. And so I am always willing to help and, help out my teammates and what they need. And I do encourage them to ask for reviews. I'll send out a message like, have you asked for reviews recently? I'll get one and then be like, oh, I should remind people, because it's something that can easily slip your mind, but it's a very useful tool. And so I know it sounds silly. Your question was, how can you coach people to not be afraid? The answer is just don't be afraid.
Just don't be afraid.
Just
I
do
mean,
it. The more you
just,
do it, the easier it is.
yeah, and I think you said you just have to do it, and the more you more fake it before you make it, right? I mean, and so you're not going to get referrals if you don't ask for referrals. You're not going to get the feedback to help you be better, or the feedback to help you build a strong reputation if you don't ask for the feedback. If you're afraid of all the negative things that can happen, I'm here to tell you, everyone, when I launch this, they're like, oh my gosh, recruiters are just going to get blasted with all this negative stuff, because that industry perception was so tainted. And the reality is, it's not true. People are having a great experience with individual recruiters. They're having a great experience. They're sharing it. We get more positive feedback than negative. And to me, it's when somebody takes the time to share, like that review was shared with you, like that's meaningful. I mean, that's just meaningful in knowing that you're doing a great job, but that person's invested in your success as much as you're invested in theirs. And those are the relationships. And it goes, it's reviews, your reputation, referrals, they all go hand in hand, right? There's not one that's mutually exclusive. They all have to work together. And not every review is going to be good, but I love it. You're like, I call them up. Yeah. Right.
One of the first reviews I got on Great Recruiters, I will never forget it. It was like a stab wound to the heart, because everything was good except for on the experienced part. This person gave me like 3 or 4 stars, and I was like, no, I'm new, and he could tell, and I was so disappointed. And I'll never forget calling my director like, oh no, why did I ask for this review? I wasn't experienced enough. But that gave me the confidence to say, okay, well, he could tell I'm inexperienced. And what can I do differently with the next person I talk to? Because I'm not going to be experienced tomorrow. So I could just continually ask him, what are your questions? If I didn't know the answer, say, I don't know, let me find the answer. And that's what I did for him. And he ended up staying with me for a while. And we still chat to this day. He's not nursing anymore. He has moved on to better things. But we spoke not long ago because we got another state that we can staff in our staffing licenses. And so I knew from years ago he had inquired about that state, and we couldn't staff there at the time. So I reached out to him a couple months ago and said, hey, we can staff Illinois now. You want to come back? And he said no, but he was happy to speak with me and say, I'll refer my friends. So it's one of those learning experiences where not everything is going to be perfect, and that's okay.
And it is. And you're like, hey, if one person feels this, then possibly others that aren't sharing that. And so, I think it does say a lot about your character to look within and say, okay, I can't go gain 3 years of experience overnight, but what are the other things that I can do that I can still create a good experience, even though I might lack a little bit of that knowledge specific to the industry.
Right.
The worst thing you can do is try to fake it, right? That's the stuff. Right. When you start talking to somebody who knows their trade, and you're trying to fake it, it doesn't go over well.
They're going to know.
The trust is going to go down the bucket.
You're going to know you're new here.
It's going down the tube. Yeah. Well, hey, Marissa, this has been awesome. I really appreciate your time and sharing. I love to hear the success stories around it. Like I said, you earned it all, and your success is the only way that I can have success here, because this was built for folks like you. And when I hear this kind of feedback and I hear the success that you're having in the team, it means the world to me that you're sharing it and that it's working. So very grateful to be able to meet you and have you share your experience. Any parting thoughts that you would say to your industry friends out there related to having success in this different market that we're in today?
Yeah, well, thank you. First of all, I really do appreciate that encouragement. And y'all's site, sorry, my y'all came out. I'm from the South, everybody. I'm sorry. Your site that you have is very user-friendly, and it's been one of my favorites to implement as a recruiter. So thank you for having it and giving us that chance. Parting thoughts is just stick with it, keep on calling people, get on the phone, call your people, ask for referrals, ask for reviews, and the jobs are going to pick up, the people are going to continue. There's always going to be someone who wants to see somewhere new. You just have to find them. So I think the best tool that we have is the people that we've worked with in the past. And this is a way to do it. Ask them for feedback, ask them for referrals, and We'll keep on keeping on.
And if you're a traveler out there and you're looking for a great recruiter, there's one right here. Marissa, how can people find you, get a hold of you?
They can find me on the Travel Nurses Inc. website. It's travelnursesinc.com. I'm listed there with all my contact information, and maybe we can throw it up. I don't know, but it's on. If I'm tagged on here, it should be on my LinkedIn page as well.
Awesome. Well, hey, enjoy your 77 degrees and sunny. I'm going to go bundle up.
Find your umbrella.
With the umbrella and take the dogs for a walk. But it's been a real pleasure, and I wish you all the best. And if there's ever anything you need, you know how to get a hold of me.
Thank you so much, Adam. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Take
Bye.
care.